It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Monday. Hot Monday. Gary, how are you?
I'm so depressed with that news that came out over the weekend.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, you know, the one that TMZ broke, Kid Rock drinking a Bud Light.
Oh, I didn't see that.
You didn't see that?
No.
It was a huge news over the weekend.
What didn't make my news feed?
Yes.
Was that the buzz?
That was the buzz.
All
yes.
right.
Yes. Kid Rock at a concert last Thursday caught drinking a Bud Light.
Oh.
And then if it was Breitbart, I think it's boycott over.
Well, then I'm surprised to learn that Kid Rock still does concerts.
Well, I was at another concert.
Oh, he was attending.
Yeah,
okay, well that makes sense.
Apparently, he was attending a concert.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, yeah, he was.
I was going to say I don't remember him announcing a tour or anything. I didn't see anything making the news because liberals would be all upset that somebody who is not a liberal is making music. Yeah. Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, so the best still ever was the meme when Marjorie Taylor Greene announced she was getting a divorce. And there was the picture of Kid Rock, like fast walking.
Yeah, on a beach somewhere, yeah.
On a beach somewhere, fast walking with the beer in his hand going, Kid Rock looking for Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah. Yeah. That was funny. That was funny.
So, yeah, as the rest of us, spend so much time, energy, and effort to find what kind of beer we can drink, Kid Rock crumbles. What, is he not a dependable conservative?
Yeah, I guess not.
Oh, man. Other than that, it was an interesting weekend.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different stories out there. Trump not going to be in the first debate.
Yeah.
He has exited stage left from that. You've got Hillary hitting South. Okay, we need to be careful. Hillary, the
storm.
Hillary with one L.
Yeah. I saw so many news organizations with the graphics that were wrong on the spelling on that over the weekend. There was 3 major news organizations that had the wrong spelling on it. I thought, how do you get that wrong on the graphics?
Wow.
You get the list of storms, the names for the storms.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw 3 major news organizations with the wrong spelling of that. Because Hillary, Hillary, going to California isn't news.
No, not.
As Bill calls it, that's spring break. That's my time when I read. I sit at home myself and read.
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures are getting hit with some really big rain on the earthquake in between that.
Right.
It was a 5.1, 5.2, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But I realized that over the weekend that no matter what the weather is, it's climate change. If you see, for example, up in places in the Northeast, they're having a much colder summer than normal. We're a little bit probably above average here.
Yeah, actually, we've been setting records here. So
for the length of time, we haven't hit, for example, I don't think I saw a thing yesterday. We're not like in the top 10 of highest temperatures though. For officially for Dallas. I saw that yesterday. But yeah, I actually want it to be over because it's been since July. And then yesterday, another 108, 109 degree day. And then you look at the long range forecast, every day is in the hundreds. But for example, talking to a few of my friends up in Western New York, and they're just like, this is the year without a summer for us. You know, they had like an 81-degree day yesterday. Everybody was going crazy. It's like, yeah, but most of last week, and I think majority of this week is like in the low 70s, even days just in the 60s as a high. So, it doesn't matter whether you get the rain, whether you get the drought, whether you get the sunshine. It's all climate change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the interesting story we'll have on Sweden adopting nuclear power. Interesting story on that coming here up on the show today. I'll tell you about the Democratic lawmaker who plans to move forward with a 4-day work week. This is in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, okay.
4 days, 32 hours.
All right.
Make the same. Mm-hmm. All companies over 500 people would have to do it. Under 500, you would not.
Mm-hmm.
And so that'd be interesting because that's the key. The key is the pay remains the same. That would be the legislation in Pennsylvania.
Then you would have to make that effective without just laying people off, then you have to make a minimum salary requirement then at that point statewide. Because otherwise companies could come in and say, yeah, we're not cutting your pay. We're cutting you. We're laying off, and the new people we're going to hire at a lower wage.
Right. Well,
unless you come in and set a minimum wage like that.
Would that be the
minimum standard on which would have to be on salary too?
Would that be the next thing? Think about this. Is that the next thing that's coming from Democrats, where it is if you're a company, once you hire a certain number of people, you must keep that certain number of people?
Yeah, well, good luck with that, because a company going out of business has to keep zero, and what you would see likely is a ton of companies going to part-time only.
No.
You know, we're not full-time. We're not going to have any full-time employees except for at this level here, executives. And we'll just hire more hourly people, and we'll work them 21 hours a week.
Will you see companies, for example, saying, all right, your health care is gone, go on Obamacare?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your health care is gone. We're mandated that we have to cut back, to 4 days a week.
Right.
Every single company, which means you've got to manage, because there's a ton of companies.
Mm-hmm.
Think of how that would affect. Let me just throw a company at you that's working 24/7 all the time, Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On a company like that, on shipping companies, what would that do to their costs?
Oh, no, it would be absolutely ludicrous. And if they go statewide, then you're going to have a lot of companies saying, well, I guess we don't stay in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So,
if we have to maintain this level of workforce and we can't afford to take everybody part-time, and basically that would entail basically moving everybody to part-time and then hiring other part-timers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the very real situation is that you've got to incentivize people to work for you. But if the state is saying, no, we want people to work 32 hours and that can be the max that they work, that's going to be full-time, I'd love to see from all the any companies in Pennsylvania who on a normal basis have overtime. Not just 40, but you're working 48 hours or more per week. And if you're mandating that there can't be any overtime, or overtime would have to be paid after 32 hours, then you have to consider as a company whether or not you can stay in that state.
Or cut benefits.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a key. We're cutting no more health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get to that particular point, then if you get to the point of doing that as a company in this day and age, and you're trying to attract talent, you may just move out of state.
Yeah, I mean, you may not have a choice. Again, we've said it about individuals and companies in other states that for whatever reason, and for a number of reasons, have made it too costly to live or conduct business in those states. at some point you can't afford to stay. And if the state doesn't want to be productive, because this is it. You get into the states that are saying, all right, mandatory paid leave for this, mandatory paid leave for that. At some point, those companies have to decide whether it's productive or not to stay in those states.
Do they see what is happening? Because this is a Democrat in Pennsylvania that is promoting this, a Democratic state lawmaker. Do they see what is happening, that there is a shift? Do they understand that when it comes to so many different things that we have talked about, including things on the economy, what the government can actually do, because the abstract is now hitting the reality of it? You can't continue the spending that we're doing. Democrats believe we can. Mm-hmm. You can't continue it. And so when you get to this particular point, as we have stated, and you see the mass migration out of California, out of Illinois, out of New York, going to Florida, going to Texas, you see the desperation. We talked about the CNBC. What's the best place for business? Where's the best place to work? And wokeness, wokeness was a huge factor in what state is the best for business. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. It's like they continue to live in this delusional world.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that you and I asked, have we reached the point where states will now be massively competing for not just for business, but for talent? Because you look at these states where people are moving out of, when we don't have the birth rate to continue the economic growth that we've been having, because you don't have the people available, but you see the mass migration into certain states, which allows them to have more of a workforce, more to choose from. And you just wonder, and you look at California wanting to raise taxes, Illinois wanting to raise taxes, New York wanting to raise taxes, and due to the fact that you've got billionaires, the rich, moving out of those states because they keep wanting to tax them, they're losing a tremendous amount of their state revenue, because it's such a tilted tax the tax reality of what they have, where they get so much. I think it was Cuomo who said in New York a few years back, he goes, my gosh, the top 1% pay 40% of the taxes. They start moving out, boom, you get hit big time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening.
Oh, no, it's been a cash drain from both California and New York, and that's going to continue. There's nothing that's going to turn that around. There is no incentive. A family member was tasked at her job with assessing whether or not their company, which is a smaller company, but it's got massive growth, very quick growth, should go into California. The assessment from the entire accounting department, all the bean counters, it was a resounding no. And here's why. And they put the numbers on the paper, and the people in charge, the owners, basically, it's a partnership, the owners looked at it and said, I don't know how we can do it. There's no way we can do it. They thought it was going to be explosive growth by going to California, and they realized they may see short-term growth, but within 5 years, they'd be looking to leave California. And that's the reality. Companies this is happening a lot with companies that have thought that they're going to go to, these areas and they're going to expand their growth. And then all of a sudden they get hit hard. And really, I have to say that the timing, likely it's the timing of all of this, that the talent has left the state in recent years. I think it was accelerated to some degree by COVID. But it was always the case that California had, like, the highest, in fact, cost of living. It's why the U.S. Census Bureau changed how they were measuring poverty. It was based on what you've always said. They changed it to be based on what it should be based on, and that is cost of living by comparison to what people make. and cost of living in California is too great. And over again, we see companies leaving the state for various reasons. Then you add to it the call for defund the police. Their policy on wildfires has got at least two major homeowners insurance companies leaving the state. They'll no longer write any policies in that state. All of this is by choice. The people elect more and more people to do this over and over again, and everybody thinks something is going to change. This economy isn't just about inflation. It's about what's going on at the state level in a big way.
86690 Red Eye.
Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider too. Clean gear oil, for example, extends gear, bearing, and seal life. It also protects against low-speed, high-torque wear and high-speed scoring. That means not only longer equipment life and reduced maintenance costs, but also improved fuel economy and lower operating costs. So the next time you plan for your oil change purchase, don't neglect lubrication and inspection, especially on components and parts that work hard to keep your vehicle running safe and smooth.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella.
Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow, not a good weekend for the president. Not because he said anything, but because he's just sort of disappeared. We're going to play a ton of audio cuts coming up following the bottom of the hour, but this was on CNN over the weekend, and this is a Maui resident talking to CNN.
And right now, the Maui community is helping the Maui community. And it's really affected me because where's the president? He decides to come here this week, to come here next week. I mean, like, where aren't we Americans too? Like, we're part of the United States, but why are we getting put in the back pocket?
That was on CNN.
Yep.
And that's the point. He's on a week-long vacation to Lake Tahoe. Mm-hmm. And, after he was at the beach vacation in Delaware where he had no comment. And then remember when he was asked on, was it Thursday? When he was asked, you have any comment on, because he's supposed to go to Maui today, I heard.
Yeah.
And he just said, well, you have any comment on your trip? No. Mm-hmm. And it was just, whoa.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this before, how he seems to get into this incredible stubborn streak that you could just imagine his aides are telling him, you need to go, remember the Ohio train derailment?
Right.
You need to go here. And the more you tell him he needs to go somewhere and it's an absolute thing that he must do,
the more defiant he becomes.
It really is amazing. No, I'm not going to answer questions on it. No.
Yeah.
It's just, and we'll get to a ton of other audio. I mean, the NBC Chuck Todd over the weekend. I mean, some of the stuff that was going on there was really fascinating.
And then the New York Times and the Washington Post on the whole Hunter thing.
Oh, you'll get to that? Oh, yeah. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, it's like, wow, the liberal media's awake, everybody.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, the Sunday morning news shows. We'll get to some of these audio cuts here in a little bit, where the Democrats are insisting the economy is just doing wonderful, and they got some pushback. We'll get to that. Plus, we had talked about in Pennsylvania, a big, it's just one lawmaker that is introduced the bill to have a 4-day work week in just 32 hours, and we're like, wow, how can you do that, especially with the competition that we expect to see from states for people and jobs over the next decade or so. Let's go to Charles in Arizona. Charles, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Charles.
Hey, how you doing?
Very good.
Okay, great. Hey, my topic has to do with basically the revitalization of America. If you take a look at a lot of the states, not the Democrat-run states, but a lot of the other states have little towns that are basically dying on the vine because they don't have manufacturing, they don't have jobs, and their children are growing up and leaving and going to some other state or doing something else.
Okay, you've said you need manufacturing in small states or small population centers. Not going to happen.
No,
you don't have the population. States are losing population right now.
Well, and you don't have the cheap energy that's needed, and a lot of states are in fact working against cheap energy. You don't have the talent pool that's needed.
Right.
You don't have the workers, the number of workers. Gone is the day when everybody in the town wanted to do. Basically, there were one or two major employers at the manufacturing level that everybody was pointing to as and I lived in a town like that. Those days are far behind us. And the reason that they're behind us is because you have to go where the people live. If you're going to set up manufacturing anywhere in the U.S., you're going to go, it may be to an outlying area, but you're still going to go to a major metro area in order to ensure that if you experience a high turnover rate, that there are people in line at all times to apply for those jobs and to fill those positions that are being voided as that revolving door keeps turning. That's just the way it is. And on top of that, we've decided as a nation that we don't want cheap and plentiful energy.
Yeah. We've decided as a nation, through who we've put into elective office, that we do not want a manufacturing base, both by the fact of not wanting cheap energy, because that's what the people of the United States have voted for. We don't want cheap energy, and as we've talked about before, the population growth has not kept up with what we have seen over the last 80 years in this country, where we had both women come into the workforce and a huge population boom from World War II. And the other thing is, when you see many of these states, these high-tax states, where they have, because of their tax policies, the billionaires are moving out, that you're going to have more of the taxes have to be paid by the poor and the middle class. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality of the tax systems that have been set up there, and they seem to have no worry at all about increasing taxes. I was seeing the governor, in fact, we'll have it coming up in a couple seconds, the governor of Minnesota on Meet the Press, best economy ever. The economy's going great. Biden's doing a wonderful job. Anybody in Minnesota listening to that governor knows he's delusional.
Yeah.
He's absolutely delusional.
Yeah.
Anybody knows that. You can even see Chuck Todd, asking him questions. You can see it in Chuck Todd's eye. Well, stop it. Stop this about Biden. Stop this about, the economy. And they had a talk about, they had a roundtable on that. They had the one guy from the Hoover Institute, the think tank, that was saying, you're trying to sell people that the economy's great, and they don't feel it.
No.
And they said that's one thing that isn't talked about, how inflation is still going to affect the 2024 election. And they all seem to be in agreement, like, okay, yeah, it's trouble right now. Mm-hmm. But no, as to if you wish that to happen, that would be nice, but wishes don't matter.
Well, and
to
that's
be very
it.
blunt.
I mean,
Wishes
you
don't
you
matter.
don't bring a manufacturer doesn't come to a ghost town in order to revive a ghost town. It's quite the opposite. They go to where the people already are because they need people to fill those jobs as soon as that manufacturing facility is online. That's just the way it is, and it is unfortunate for these small towns. But one thing that Charles pointed out is the fact that the younger generation, they get up and they move. Well, they get up and they move because they want to go to where there's more jobs and more choices for jobs. It's not just that the corporations or the manufacturers are done with that kind of, setting up shop in a small town and having everybody work for you. It's that generations, a couple of generations. I think yours and my generation were probably the last to really adhere to that, to where you had this in your mind, when I graduate high school or college, I'm going to go to this manufacturer, I'm going to work there, and I'm going to retire. I'm going to have a pension from there, and that's the way it's going to be. There are very few employers in the U.S. where they still have that with the people that work for them. It is a generational thing. We've seen it die off, and that's why those young people move from the small towns, because they realize, if I want to have a better choice of jobs, working 2 or 3 years for one employer, for people in the generations behind us, that's a big deal to them. To me, you're still the newbie. I've been here 26 and a half years, and I'm still the newbie. And those are the things that, you have to look at is all right, if you're going to have that revolving door, then what do? Well, you go to where there's more individuals in that area, and that's exactly what they do.
Well, I'll say this: you have businesses that are so desperate where, if you had a resume when I was growing up, if you had a resume where you were jumping every year or two, that was a huge negative. It was, why do you keep jumping from job to job to job to job?
Yeah.
Now it's viewed as just normal. I mean, they're just like, oh, okay, you've worked here, 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 and you left.
Right.
Oh, okay, that means, and you were performing. All right, well, we need somebody like that here.
Right.
I have a friend of mine who's in commercial real estate, and she has, jumped to get better pay on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
And she even said, I feel a little guilty because I was only there for, a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, do they offer you a contract?
Yeah.
If they don't offer you a contract, I mean, when you live and you exchange your work for money, there's also a thing called a contract. If they wish to keep you, they could sign you to a contract, where you could stay for 5 years.
Yeah,
when
sure.
they don't do that, you don't owe them anything.
You're not bound to them.
You don't legally, you don't morally owe them anything. And so people are, starting to move on, but it used to be viewed as a negative. And so you'd sit there and say, oh, man, look at my resume. Remember, we'd look at our resume and say, oh, no, there's a 1 or 2 month point there where I was off of work.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Right.
All right. Okay, I'll move that 2 weeks to that way and 2 weeks to that way. So it's only like I was out of work for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Who will ever notice? You were so worried about things like that, where today it's like,
we don't care.
Hey, I'm coming in here, and what can you offer the company? Well, I quit quieter than the rest of the people who quiet quit.
Yeah. Listen,
Okay.
I showed up for this stupid interview. It's funny because...
And you didn't even get me a cup of coffee.
Exactly. And what did you... Oh, someone mentioned that. In fact, I read a number of articles about employers and what they look for when they interview people. And one of them was, we want people to show up for the interview. So my joke was based in something I've actually seen. And then you bring in the coffee cup thing, and there was a separate article about, this is the one thing that I do to test people for an interview. It tells me the type of employee that they might turn out to be. I take them to the break room, and we make some kind of beverage, usually coffee, and then we take that to my office. If they leave the cup sitting on my desk and don't return it to the kitchen, they don't get hired. I mean,
Wow.
The psychology, because how else are you going to do it? If you say, well, you got 20 years experience here and you're certified or whatever, trained, education, blah, 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 that's one thing. But you also have to determine what kind of employee they're going to be. Are they going to be thoughtful in their approach? And those are very real things, because otherwise you don't know, because the resume may be scattered. It's one thing, what they'll look at first is how long you've been at your current job. Then it will be, the position that you're in, how long you've been doing what you do. Because if you've been in the same field of work for a long time, then that can help to make up for jumping from job to job every year. Mm-hmm. And but the question is, we're going to spend onboarding and training can cost the company thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Then they pour in, whatever, maybe whatever incentive, 90-day signing bonus, or just your regular bennies, your benefits. Mm-hmm. And for those under the age of 90, bennies, they're not a drug. And it's not a guy from an Elton John song.
Hey, if they drink coffee, maybe they'll take bennies and they'll work a lot harder and faster.
Yeah, what I do is I line out some cocaine on the desk.
Oh, here we go.
And I see whether or not they're disgusted or they smile. Janet yelling, bennies, bennies! So you get into the, you got any weed? But you get into that. And by the way, I now have to ask employers, and I'll have to look into this. Yeah, exactly.
Can I smoke at my desk?
Exactly. Hey, do you mind if I vape or bring in edibles? Did you bring a whole box for the whole crew? Well, no, it's not donuts, dude. These are expensive. But you have to wonder, too, how much of that has changed since legalization in certain states. Mm-hmm. And the attitude of what became generational, and that is, we're not going to center our entire life around our work. What they miss out on is, when you do that, when you focus on your work, everything that you want out of life comes from that, including food when you're old, because you build a retirement.
And that's a very important thing. Food when you're old.
Older Eric needs to eat. That's what it repeats in my head all the time. He's going to need a place to stay and food.
And that's what keeps him coming in every single night to work with me.
Yeah, you may.
That's it.
You're waking up to work all night again. I know how painful it can be, but older Eric is going to be happy you did.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up, we will talk about what happened over the weekend. Really some interesting stories, whether it's Biden and Hawaii. That story from the New York Post that the Hawaii official concerned with equity delayed releasing water for more than 5 hours as wildfires rage. That's report there. Plus the Sunday morning news shows, just some of the discussion there, because and you had mentioned, too, the New York Times, was it also Washington Post, stories on Hunter Biden?
Two different stories on Hunter Biden that share some of the same thoughts, and it just appears that the liberal media, this has been happening with Chuck Todd because he's kind of on his way out the door, but this is also happening with other liberal media outlets where they're now, because it really was for the longest time, for a couple of years, what Hunter Biden story? There's no Hunter Biden story. Oh, yeah, but it doesn't include Joe. Oh, yeah, and then now they're focusing on not just Hunter, but Weiss and Weiss's relationship with the Biden family. And that starts to hit from the liberal media, the New York Times and the Washington Post. Now you know they're not ignoring the story. Are they going full-on coverage and covering everything that needs to be covered? No. But they are doing stories on it, which means they're greatly concerned about it. And keep in mind, the majority of his own party doesn't want this president to run again next year. So,
and also Trump, not in the first debate.
Nope.
And what does that mean? What's the big picture all around the corner?
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, let's just start with some audio cuts over the weekend.
All right. Okay.
I did promise them. This is on Meet the Press. How many weeks he has? Like, does Chuck Todd have like 2 more weeks or something?
Then I think he goes to home confinement, house arrest, and then he's free to work part-time.
All right. Here he is with Minnesota Democratic Governor Tim Walz. Man, if I lived in Minnesota and did local talk, I'd have a field day with this guy. But here we go.
Do you really believe Joe Biden is the best candidate the Democrats could nominate, or is this a political expediency answer?
Well, absolutely. First of all, he's been one of the most highly effective presidents we've ever seen. I sat in Congress for 12 years waiting for Infrastructure Week. He actually delivered on this. And look, Dean is a friend of mine. I love him. But I spent last weekend on Mackinac Island with Tony Evers and Gretchen Whitmer talking about how we're going to make sure that we win this for Joe Biden. Because this is not a debate about Joe Biden's age or experience. It's about a debate about protecting the democracy.
Is it? Is it really?
And why do people? Let's get to another audio cut here.
What do you make of that?
Here we go. Here, I'm sorry. And that was my fault, folks. Sorry.
Right.
Here's talking about the situation with Joe Biden and why it's so bad.
Joe Biden seems to not have this groundswell of support right now. Do you think it's all age?
No, I think it's our system. I think Donald Trump and the Republican Party have poisoned it to people. No one trusts our institutions. No one trusts Congress. No one trusts any of us because all they do is attack our families, do those types of things.
Okay.
This guy's really weak.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really weak. And so then they get into a little discussion. This is the panel discussion on his Biden's favorability ratings. Understand this is NBC, and we're just trying to take trying to figure out what the tone is,
right? Yeah,
from Meet the Press and the mainstream media.
One thing I want to point out here is I want to show you this stuff has taken a huge toll on him. Biden, right before the 2020 election, he was right side up, which in our polarized politics is quite astonishing. But look, Trump and Rudy Giuliani began this campaign to try to tarnish Biden, to try to turn him into the Clinton name, with the obsession over the Ukraine businesses with Hunter. And it's worked. His numbers now look more like Hillary Clinton 16 than Biden 20.
And the funny thing is, he's still trying to make the point. This is all about Hunter.
Yeah.
Hunter's dealings with Ukraine that has nothing to do with the president.
I'm a little confused by the whole Bidenomics.
Okay, hang on. just had problems with my audio for some reason here. This is Lan Hee Chen, fellow from the Hoover Institution, on the entire Bidenomics thing. Here we go. All right.
I'm a little confused by the whole Bidenomics thing because you're trying to convince people of something. You're trying to convince them their own impressions about the economy are wrong. And so if you look, for example, at how Hispanic and black voters feel about the economy, they'll tell you it stinks. Now, they can keep saying, but we have the CHIPS Act, but we have the IRA. At the end of the day, you can't convince someone that how they're feeling about the economy is wrong. And that's what this election is going to come down to. And I get that they're trying to present a proactive message, but at the end of the day, it's very difficult, I think, to do that when people they simply feel differently.
Well, they feel differently because they feel differently because it is different.
Yeah, because reality is different.
And he made the point that we've made many times before. They're walking out there and they're telling middle class America the economy is great because of the CHIP Act. The economy is great because if you buy $30,000 worth of solar panels, you'll save $5,000. The economy is great because if you buy a $78,000 electric vehicle, you'll get $6,000 off. Look at these savings that we're giving you. Well, you're a moron if you think that is going to somehow relate to the middle class and the poor in this country, and that's what they've been trying to do.
Yep. It over and over again, they miss the mark. And you kind of have to, I guess, once you're in that delusional state, you have to stay in that delusional state. And I don't know what you do if you're a Democrat and you know Biden is failing. And you listen to this and you say, what do I do? Do I show up? There's no euphoria surrounding Biden. I have to wonder this. I'm going to put it out there, and no, I'm not smoking weed. Is the hatred for Trump with the rank and file, not the party members, the rank and file Democrats, is the hatred for Trump currency as valuable as it once was? Let me rephrase that. Will it be as valuable in November of 2024 if Trump and Biden are the two guys on the ballot?
Look, we've said about the problem with Trump is getting independence.
Yeah.
And I talked to Independent Bob yesterday. And he can't deal with Trump.
Right.
Just can't deal with and he is furious at Trump because he believes because of how Trump has acted, even if not illegally, that Trump is going to put Biden in office again, and the Democrats will be in another 4 years. He is livid about that.
Yeah, that's where independents are.
He is
I think, or might be in November of next year. I think there is a case to be made because I think you're seeing it in the numbers. I think you might see it in the numbers in the summer of next year. Trump is eventually the nominee. But
when I brought up, for example, I said, well, let's go back in history. Let's look at everything. Look at what Hillary did.
Yeah.
Look what Hillary did. Oh, because the one thing he said there's no accountability. And I said, well, actually there is. Hillary's not president.
Right.
There was accountability there. And the Democrats will look at, you say there's no accountability for Trump. He's not president right now.
Right.
I said, so what do you mean by accountability? If he broke the law, yes. But if you look at these things, and you could tell he was like, and I think it came down to he just wants Trump gone because he believes Democrats will hold power for the next decade if Trump is the nominee. And it's as simple as that. Well, he does. I don't think there's any. He has got no hatred towards Trump. He's looking at what he views as this is the political reality that I believe is going to happen.
Definitely an issue, but I think it's a separate issue from my question on the motivation for rank and file Democrats. Because I think for rank and file Democrats, they'd be more inclined to stay home.
Right, because I'm talking more independents
right,
there. So,
right.
Okay.
And because I had a long conversation with my dad on Sunday and talking about a number of things and things that aren't working. And at some point, inevitably, if you're talking to anybody and they know what you do for a living, they ask the question, what do you think is the main driver? Do you think people will keep voting this way? And the fact of the matter is, I don't expect it to change the party they support when they vote. But, you see, and they had the poll over the weekend. I think I kept it for Democrats right now. Cornel West, 5%. That's the Green Party.
Mm-hmm.
But it draws a ton of, obviously, a Cornel West is going to be drawing, as the Green Party most often does, from the liberals. And I don't know, the tipping point or the outcome is really not the question. It's about what motivates that blue voter right now. And is the Trump hatred enough to get them to the polls, or do a number of them stay home? And I don't know. I don't know that question. I don't know that answer. Because Biden has completely wrecked it. Not in a good way for the young people listening. I mean, he's just destroying everything, and he can't answer a single question in the wake of the most deadly natural disaster of one of our states. No comment. And then days later, when the trip was set, hey, can you tell us about your trip to... No!
Yeah. And that's why I played. Let me find it again here. The audio from the woman from Hawaii that CNN talked to, because when you hear it, it's like, whoa. Yeah. This is on CNN, and as we said, this is a president that turned his back plenty of times on Afghanistan and other things Ohio, the train derailment. Yep. And just said, no, not going to visit, and eventually, does that catch up to you? Do you get to a point where you say, the guy really doesn't care? This was on CNN, and this is a Maui resident.
And right now, the Maui community is helping the Maui community. And it's really affected me, because where's the president? He decides to come here this week, to come here next week. I mean, like, where aren't we Americans too? Like, we're part of the United States, but why are we getting put in the back pocket? Why are we being ignored?
It's powerful stuff.
Well, it's you look at all of the news surrounding Hawaii's fires, all the devastation. We really do grieve as a nation, but this president is not grieving. Why?
Yeah, you look at that. You look at there's now a lot of. I got to get an article. I forgot it was the New York Times or New York Post talking about the fact of how the whole migrant thing could be huge in New York right now, because it's going crazy. And I mentioned in Western New York last week how Erie County decided they're not going to take any more migrants, and now it's just blowing up in New York City.
Well, and so the president in Maui this week, but it gets back to the situation with the train derailment. You're far behind here in the process. And the media and everyone in the White House, the entire staff, knows this is going to be a problem. Him going to Hawaii now is a risk politically. Because, number one, you got to hope and pray he can stay on point mentally and verbally. And number two, people are going to be upset.
Or the concern of Democrats, will he make it about him?
Well, and there's the other thing, is arrogance. Look what I did. I've been in, because the media will be right there when he's meeting with families, when he's touring the area. Inevitably, somebody's going to ask them the question, what took you so long? And he's going to get defensive and defiant.
866-90 Red Eye.
Leased owner-operators should be aware of 4 common revenue myths, lest you fall into the trap of mistaking revenue for profit. Myth 1. Concentrate on increasing revenue because costs will take care of themselves. This is not true, as costs are fundamental to the profit equation and the area where owners exert the most control to improve. Myth 2. More revenue per mile is the answer to all problems. Though carrier pay packages differ in structure, revenue per mile really doesn't change much from company to company, but there can be a big difference in miles, overall gross revenue, reimbursements, and fees. Myth 3. All you have to do to be successful is run a lot of miles. In reality, revenue is only half of the profit equation. Costs are the other half. It's possible to generate a lot of revenue, yet spend $1.10 to make every dollar. Myth 4. You can tell how well you're doing by the size of your settlement check. The settlement check is only a part of the success picture. Miles driven, loads hauled, conditions, mechanical problems, time off, and especially costs all have to be considered. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Shell Rotella with advanced synthetic technology. For more information, go to overdriveonline.com to the Overdrive's Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on Business 101 and many other topics.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Trump not going to show for the first debate. The way I read it, it almost made it sound like he's not going to show for any debates, but most of the analysis was, well, at least the first debate, and we will see what happens from that point. But his reasoning was, I'm way up in the polls. I don't need to be there. How will Republicans respond to that? Trump supporters, I'm sure, are okay with it.
Yeah, well, it makes you wonder, will the polls change at all ultimately if he's not on that stage?
Right.
Now, you can't avoid the stage forever because any way you slice it, it's not going to look good. They'll go at the angle of, well, he doesn't want to talk about all those indictments, or he's afraid to debate us, or all the above. And you've really got to step up to a stage at some point and take on essentially everybody else if you're on the top. But I do wonder what the polls will look like. You know, we've seen the rise of Ramaswamy here in the last week or two in some of the polls. And some of the polls, one of the polls, was it the Emerson? Yeah, the Emerson poll that brought DeSantis down to 10 and Ramaswamy up to 10. So in that poll, they're tied. And, of course, Trump is at 56. Now, does Trump stay way up there after the first debate? I guess we'll see. But eventually you're going to have to get to a debate stage during the primary.
With looking at the polls, do Republicans even care about this debate? Do they even care? Do Republicans need to know what each candidate stands for, or do they basically know already?
Okay, so which gets to the bigger question. I don't know if we asked it. We've asked it before, and I don't know what election cycle it was. Do debates matter anymore?
Well, I mean, you talk about the last debates, you know, the Democrats versus Republicans in September and October. Remember, they still find all these people that are, I forgot the comedian said, how the hell can you be undecided?
Right.
Who are these people that the last 2 weeks go, And this was back in 2020 and in 2016.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do I want Trump or do I want Hillary?
Yeah.
I know we've been talking about it for 2 years, but I have not come to a decision yet.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Who are these people and how do they think?
Yeah.
So, but it is, you think about that, there are the people that you have to realize there are a lot of different people and people think differently, and a lot of people don't pay attention at all until the last couple of weeks. That's just the reality of politics. But here, this is a primary. This is the first debate. You're months from even the first primary votes. Do Republicans even care? Do 55% of the Republicans who support Trump even care to watch this?
Well, and is it about the other candidates, or is it about everything they've thrown at Trump for a lot of them, where they say, look, he's already been president. That's a plus. And his economy during that time was great. I liked what he did for the economy. And it really isn't about the other people that are on stage challenging him right now. This really is already, for me, about Trump versus Biden, and that's not going to change. Again, conventional wisdom is gone.
I know. It
You know,
is.
you can't apply it. Well,
can't.
no, he needs to show up to the debate stage. I just said that a few minutes ago. Eventually, he's going to, what the hell do I know?
Call and join the conversation. 1-866-90-RED-I. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Now, what you said at the end when you were like, because that's part of the thought process is, well, eventually he's, Trump's eventually going to have to be part of a debate. And you said, what the hell do I know? None of the rules apply right now. And I started thinking about that when I started hearing things over the weekend, and I went, nah, okay, that's inside Republican maybe mindset. And this was the fact that Trump says that you need to be loyal to him, but he's not loyal to the Republican Party because he's not participating in the. And I'm like, nah, that's not really going to go anywhere. That argument. When I heard that argument, I went, it's not going to go anywhere because people who support Trump really could care less about the Republican establishment.
Well, and exactly, because that was the original swamp,
Right, the original, and that's the whole thing with DeSantis and the attack. Well, he didn't get rid of the swamp, and I went, yeah, but the swamp. What's the swamp to DeSantis? What does that mean?
Right,
that he didn't get rid of Republican leadership, or he didn't get rid of what we view as the swamp now,
right,
which is the rot inside law enforcement, and that's, I think, what DeSantis is sort of talking about. But that was not the original swamp. People don't live in the bubble of today. The swamp was the Republican leadership. It was after Boehner left and Paul Ryan became Speaker. The swamp was Republicans.
Yeah.
The swamp now is viewed as the rot inside our intelligence agencies, if you wish to call it deep state. It's the rot inside of law enforcement. It's the rot that we see inside government today. So even the definition of a swamp has changed. And I went, okay, will that stick? And my thought is, you're going to have candidates that really, on average, don't have more than 10% of the Republican Party at the moment that wishes to vote for them. Arguing between themselves isn't going to do it. Somebody has to make an effective case against Trump, and I don't know how you do that.
I don't know how you do it with a number of things. What we mentioned earlier, and we talked about it before. Look, his presidency was successful in the minds of Republican voters. You can say what you will about COVID, but COVID could be a wash anyway politically. It could be a wash with any given person, not just between this group or that group. It could be a wash with one person going, well, you know what? That's likely never going to happen again. So then what do you weigh? Well, okay, what was the economy doing? I want the economy doing what it was doing. I want the end to all this overreach of government and massive overregulation, which Trump was successful at rolling back quite a bit of it.
Of regulation.
So then you look at, all right, where are we right now? What is the snapshot of today? And the snapshot is Biden being so horrible it's not just who can beat Biden, but who can go in. And by the way, we mentioned last week, again, applying conventional wisdom to DeSantis and saying, all right, consensus. You do have to build a consensus within your party. And you're going to need that from time to time. Does that concern right now those 55% of Republicans who are not changing? The polls aren't moving. Are they looking at that and saying, consensus, we'll talk about that later. He's the one who can actually get a lot done on his own, which is interesting because it's kind of the same dynamic that liberals applied to Barack Obama.
A couple of weeks ago, I talked to the most loyal Trump supporter you could possibly imagine. And then I said, okay, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? What about can he get independents to vote for him? You'll vote for him. Will independents? Well, probably not. So you're willing to vote for him to lose the election? He said, yes. But he understood every single, he didn't initially when I had started the conversation. By the time I finished, he understood every single weakness of Donald Trump. And I have found that out with more Trump supporters. They may be on board right now. They understand his weakness, and they do fear that he can't win the election. Many do.
Right.
Because they believe he can't get independence. But the fact is they still want to vote for him anyway, which brings us back to 2015 and 2016. You and I actually went through all the different demographics that wish to vote for Trump. And one of the most vocal demographics that existed out there was the fact that they didn't care if Trump even won as long as he destroyed the swamp, which was the leadership of the Republican Party.
Yep.
And as you have right now, Trump not participating again. He's not again, but he's not participating in the debates. That same question has come up. Well, he's not a loyal Republican. Well, I don't think a significant base care if he's a Republican or not. And, DeSantis was saying we need to be about principle, not personality, not one individual. But that personality does represent certain principles. And one of the principles is the Republican Party is never going to be what we want them to be. So we might as well destroy them in the process. If the Democrats get elected again, that's okay. We've destroyed the Republican Party. It existed back when Trump ran in 2015, 2016. It's not talked about as much now. I don't know if it's as strong as it was back then. I would sense that it's not. Well, but it hasn't disappeared. It still exists within many Trump supporters.
Or has it morphed, and it could be a combination of the two, into, listen, if the Republican Party is destroyed by this, I don't care, because what have they done for me? What have they done lately? What have they done in recent years? What is their track record?
No, you're right.
And when you apply that, it's like, well, the intention may not be to destroy the party, but if it happens to actually go that way, then I'm not going to cry about it, because I'm going to stick by my principles. I'm going to go with, and in this case, the tried and true. He's not the outsider, but yet he's still being treated. This is the difference. He's being treated as the underdog outsider by the left. They're setting him up in all these attacks and all the indictments as a guy who doesn't know how to navigate inside the Beltway. Comey actually said it. When we sent our 2 FBI agents, one of them was struck, to go and talk to Michael Flynn at the White House, they were new. They didn't know we needed to go through, we should have gone through White House counsel. They look at him as a noob. They look at him as somebody who is absolutely clueless, and also realize that he's very responsive to anything. We throw something at him, we're going to get a reaction out of him.
This is a Wall Street Journal from yesterday. Mr. Trump clearly thinks he has a nomination all but wrapped up, and judging by the current polls, he has reason to think so. But what message is he sending about the loyalty he thinks GOP voters owe him? I don't think that's a concern.
I don't think so either.
It would mean the grand old party is going to nominate for the third time a man who has been indicted 4 times on 91 felony counts. We don't mean despite being indicted. We mean he's being nominated. He will be nominated because he's been indicted.
Right.
In order to spite the Democrats for their partisan prosecutions, GOP voters would be doing exactly what Democrats and the press corps want them to do. Democrats want Republicans to nominate the man who has shown over the last 3 national elections that he is the greater voter turnout machine for the Democratic Party since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. What they're saying is nobody turns out Democrats like Trump. Republican voters say they like that Mr. Trump is a fighter, but whom is he fighting for, them or himself? He would carry into the general election more baggage than the British royals, yet Mr. Trump expects GOP voters to nominate him with even so much as a primary debate, much less a real nominating contest. So there are still 5 months before the Iowa caucuses. So we hear this all the time. And like I said, when I talk to Trump voters, they know this.
Mm-hmm.
They know it.
Mm-hmm.
They know they're not dumb. It's not like, okay, Trump, and no, he's really going to zoom in and get all independents. They know that if they vote for Trump, there's a great chance he will lose.
Yeah.
Even to Biden or Harris.
Right.
They understand that because they're not stupid. They know he can't get independents, and he can't get them now. That's
that day, including with economic and national security aides, and also sat for an unrelated interview with podcaster Jay Shetty about mental health generally.
was that written yesterday?
It came across yesterday.
So they're still trying to set up this wall completely that it's all about Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
And there is no worry in the White House about Joe Biden. It's all about Hunter. Wow, that's amazing that they're still sticking to this wall thing, that Republicans are trying to drag the president in this, somehow unfairly, because this is all about Hunter Biden. And
right.
None of it's about Hunter Biden.
No.
Really, none of it's about Hunter Biden to the Republicans.
No.
Nobody cares about Hunter Biden. It's what is this president currently compromised, because he has been compromised for the last 15 years.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is the problem.
And in this case, you have to ignore because you were the one that said it last week. And there's, or maybe it was earlier this week, when you said they're still trying to separate and saying, well, Joe didn't take any money. It's simply Hunter. Hunter's the only one that's corrupt. And you made the great point. No, the 9 family members are also corrupt because they all received money through the fake companies, the LLCs that were set up to transfer money. So the entire Biden family is corrupt, except stupid Joe, who everybody is manipulating. That's the story you're supposed to buy.
Exactly. And because the only defense otherwise would be, well, no, Hunter falsely set up those accounts in their names and they didn't know about it. Well, now you're throwing Hunter under a massive legal bus and accusing him, in your defense, you're accusing him of committing even more crimes that he has yet to be charged with.
Right, because he set up accounts under false names.
Yeah, that would be bank fraud.
All these family members.
So in defending him, in defending the other family members,
right.
What you're doing is accusing Hunter Biden of bank fraud. So there is nowhere to go on that. There is no, if you're saying, well, no, it shows his wrongdoing. No, it shows the rest of the family, all of the family members that received money.
So the entire family's corrupt and are simply manipulating and using Joe because they believe he's a complete idiot who has no idea what's going on.
Exactly.
So the entire family, in this close family where everybody love,
Mm-hmm.
is manipulating the idiot father and grandfather.
Right.
And brother.
Yeah.
So is that what's happening,
His
Democrats?
entire family is corrupt, but not him?
And they're all using him.
Right.
In this family that loves.
Yeah, it's only about love. Love is love.
Love is love. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
You are listening to Red Eye Radio, live from the Uniden America studio. Uniden, social media at its best. Go to uniden.com today.
If you drive a big rig, you know that more time on the road means more money in your pocket. Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running and save you money in the long run. Trade up to Shell Rotella, and you'll get superior protection against engine wear. That means less time in the shop and more time on the road. It also means you'll get more chances to see North America's finest roadside attraction, cows, cornfields, cows in cornfields. It's lovely this time of year. Shell Rotella's advanced synthetic technology also offers extended drain intervals, helping your rig go farther between oil changes. So you'll make less pit stops. Well, unless you need to restock on snacks, we really can't help you with that. But if you're looking to help your big rig engine live longer, look no further. Superior protection, less maintenance. That's what you can expect from the #1 heavy-duty engine oil in North America. Shell Rotella for the long haul. Explore the full lineup of Shell Rotella products at rotella.com/long-haul.
At Denny's, value starts at $5.99. Whether you're flying solo or want a chill date night on a budget, we're turning up the volume on value with delicious meals that never sacrifice flavor for a good deal. It's time to celebrate with our 70th anniversary buttermilk pancakes, our quarter-pound 100% beef burger, or everyone's favorite, the Super Slam. Looking for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or late night starting at $5.99? At Denny's, it's diner time. Price participation may vary. No substitutions.
At Progressive Commercial, we know a trucker's time is money, and, well, there's a lot that can impact your time on the road. Like that 2004 sedan who didn't want to merge 2 miles back when everyone else did. Their bumper sticker may say peace, but their actions say otherwise. We can't save you from selfish drivers, but we can help safe customers save over $2,700 on average when they share their ELD data with us. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Safe customers based on FMCSA inspections, driving history, and other data, or for hire transportation. Not available in all states.
If you're a trucking industry professional, then you need to stay on top of changing regulations, equipment upgrades, and technology advancements. Fleet Owner Magazine gives you all of this and more. Written for fleet executives and managers, Fleet Owner gives you the business intelligence on operations, vehicle maintenance, regulations, and information technology you need to stay ahead. But that's not all. With its monthly print publication, daily and weekly email newsletters, and a website updated several times a day, Fleet Owner has all the latest news and information delivered to you when you want it and where you want it. From industry experts to award-winning writers and columnists, Fleet Owner is the #1 source for trucking information in North America. Remember to visit fleetowner.com every day for the latest industry news. You can also sign up to receive Newsline, their free email newsletter, and subscribe to Fleet Owner Magazine. Visit fleetowner.com. Fleet Owner, for news you can use.
The IRS, the world's most aggressive collection agency. They can seize your property, bank account, and garnish your wages. They cause sleepless nights for millions of Americans. Don't be one of them. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, get protected today. Call 800-312-9970. Coast One Tax Group, protecting your bank, home, and your sleep since 2008. With hundreds of 5-star reviews and an A+ on the Better Business Bureau. Call Coast One Tax Group, 800-312-9970. Stanley from New York owed $93,000. The IRS placed a levy on his bank account. Coast One released the levy and settled with the IRS for $2,000. Mark in Michigan owed $225,000. After Coast One stepped in, Mark walked away paying less than $1,500. Call Coast One now. A 10-minute call can save you up to 93% on your back taxes. Get your fresh start today. That's 800-312-9970.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-785-9132. That's 800-785-9132. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-785-9132.
Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Curley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Thank you for being here this morning. Jeff Delaney at CNN. I just saw the headline. Research will show that Americans don't care about Hunter Biden unless it somehow ties into Joe Biden. Well,
welcome to the conversation.
We're glad, Jeff. We're glad that you're into the conversation of what Republicans really care about. Republicans don't care about Hunter Biden. They never have. That's the lie that they tried to tell you or imply.
Right.
That, well, they're so concerned about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden's not the president. No, it concerns the tie-in to the enrichment of the Biden family because of influence peddling. It's all about Joe.
It always has been. Well,
Just
it's
amazing.
like Washington Post, basically implying that there are political ramifications for Hunter.
Yeah.
Did you even proofread that? Do you know that he does not serve in public office and never has?
Yeah. Hey, listen. Anybody at the Washington Post listening to WMAL?
Yeah.
Do you understand that Hunter Biden is not the president and not in politics?
Right.
We know the late night people are there, but you might want to get it to the editors to let them know that well, the political problems, that he's not a politician.
Right. It's not about him.
This is Red Eye Radio. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, this week is a perfect example of the difference between, I think, most conservative media and the mainstream media. You've seen it this week that when the Trump charges came down, I don't know any conservative outlet that didn't go point by point by point by point on all the charges. You think about this. When Trump, with the whole Russia collusion, conservatives covered that every single day. What are the charges against it? If you want to know the difference between the true journalistic media and even conservative media, because we consider ourselves conservative libertarians. Mm-hmm. But the one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to, number one, not report a story. We've never been, okay, let's ignore this story because it might hurt our preconceived narrative.
Right.
Because we don't have any preconceived narratives. We're looking for the truth. We as conservative libertarians don't believe we've got to lie.
No.
I don't have to get along with anybody.
Nope.
I don't owe anybody. I'm not in debt to anybody where, okay, we're going to ignore this story because it doesn't fit our particular narrative. Well, the only narrative I have is the truth and my conservative principles, which my conservative principles, as you and I have often stated, we don't need to lie. The left has to lie. I don't have to lie.
Nope.
And what a great thing that is. Must be tough to be on the left where you're constantly lying all the time, because one of the greatest things I know, because, man, I'm telling you, when I was a teenager, oh, man, I was a liar. You know, if that Henry Rollins song that came out in the 90s, remember Liar, where he would scream it, there's the flames all over the place. that was me. I was the big. My dad, he still gets a kick out of it today. There's somebody that we know in our life and knew back then that was the biggest BSer. And my father, really, you know, it wasn't that my father would call me a liar, because obviously he knew when I was lying. Liars, what you find out is liars really don't have a huge self-awareness, do they, of what's actually surrounding them?
No.
They don't realize that people that lie all the time and everybody knows they're lying. Nobody lets them know they're lying, but we all know they're lying. But my father...
Eventually they get called on it. Yeah.
Eventually, yeah. But my father would just say, stop being this person. And we all knew. We agreed the guy was the biggest BSer. Oh, that burned. That really, really hurt. But I think one of the greatest times in anybody's life is when you wake up one day and say, you know, there's no need for me to lie about anything in my life. Why do I have to? What a great relief. I remember as a teenager that it's like, okay, what do I got to say to this person? Because I can't remember all the lies I've told over the last week. How do I approach this person over there? I'm a recovering liar.
Everybody lies.
But I don't have to work at it every day anymore.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. The left has to get more creative in their lies. As liars often do, if you're cornered, then you have to start reshaping the lie. Or as we say, moving the goalpost. Karine Jean-Pierre's made a career out of it.
Well, and so, like I said, that's why we get upset when we view people that call themselves conservatives. When they lie, we go, stop it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. And you don't need to defend people that lie, even if you agree with them on the issues. You don't have to defend their lies.
There's no reason for you to own something that they did.
But if you look at this week, all the conservative media covered point by point by point the minutia of the charges. Nobody avoided it.
No.
Nobody avoided it. And on Russia collusion, they did. Whether it's the true journalistic media, which the true journalistic media coming out now might not, when you look at it, might be more of those, you know, if you look at the Turleys, if you look at the Matt Taibbi's, if you look at the Barry Weisses, who are liberal but believe in reporting the truth of a story, not that they are more moral than we conservatives who don't wish to lie, but the fact is they're going against the peer pressure that exists right now on the left, that you've got to follow the narrative. Doesn't matter, got to lie, got to do whatever you've got to do, you've got to do, and they're not doing it. And there takes a certain, you know, level of guts to do that, especially in today's society, because they have been majorly shunned, even though they say, well, we're Democrats and we're liberals, but you know, we need to have journalistic integrity, and we need to tell the truth. You and I have talked about this many times. Biggest problem in this country is not racism.
Right.
It's not transphobia or homophobia.
No.
It's the acceptance, and it's not just lying. It's the acceptance of lying by the public. That's what I view as the biggest problem right now in this country, because it's all over the place. But the difference is, and I'm not saying that there aren't people that call themselves conservatives that don't lie. There are. And we call them out when we see them do that, because, and it frustrates us because we don't believe there is, well, not believe, we know there's no reason the conservatives ever have to lie about where they stand. They don't.
Right.
But if you've seen over the last, you know, on how conservatives cover things versus the mainstream media, the liberal media. Remember the whole Devin Archer thing? I think Kevin Tober probably covered it on, he covers so much, on Newsbusters, but they didn't touch it. Devin Archer's testifying, you know, the deposition and all the stuff comes out, and they just won't cover it. If you want to know the difference between the conservative media and the liberal media, it's right there. Now, you may have the when we cover something, you may disagree with our analysis. but we cover it.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, as you have seen, and Joe Biden is the perfect example, starting with the laptop way back then. Who are the people that wish to keep information away from you? Who are the people that claim that they are your saviors when it comes to stopping disinformation? Yet when you look back, as we do now, whether it's COVID, the laptop, whatever, they were the ones attempting to censor the truth.
Right.
And at the same time they were censoring the truth, they were promoting the lie.
Yep.
Because you can't find two bigger issues where you have had the culture of being willing to censor and lie. Half of the country, which is the Democrats and the media, actively promoting the lie and telling you the opposite, that they were against disinformation and they were the sole purveyors of the truth when they were the exact opposite of it. And so you have to forget about even getting to the issues. You've got to ask yourself a question. Why does the mainstream media and the Democrats, why do they insist on censoring information from the adults in our society? Because I can hear it. I already know what the argument is. Well, the Republicans don't want 5-year-olds to know about things about sex, so they censor too. Adults.
Yeah.
Adults.
Right.
Just to cover that, just to cover our bases on it.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want the young kids to know everything, so you're censoring too. I'm trying to sound maybe like John Kerry there. I don't know, but I don't know if I'm or John Kerry Gump. And so I think it's important for people to recognize that. And, that's all, Matt Taibbi, when they came forward. Can't think of the other guy that came forward, too. Just his name popped out of my head.
Michael Schellenberger?
Michael Schellenberger, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A Jonathan Turley.
Yeah.
A Dershowitz.
Right.
All coming forward, people on the left, saying we got to tell the truth. We got to stop lying.
Yeah.
You got to stop lying on the left. Stop lying. Stop trying to censor. If you're going to back up what you believe, back it. Why do you have to lie about what you believe? Why do you have to, and everything, when you think about it right now, from the border to electric vehicles to the grid. I mean, we dealt with it today. It was like, okay, is this the day that we start having to have rolling, brownouts or blackouts in the state of Texas because the warnings started coming down earlier, yesterday morning. The wind isn't blowing. What are we going to do? Everything from the lies of and the continuing lies of climate change that never have come true.
Right.
To the fact that we can run the grid on solar and wind. Everybody knows it's a lie. Why do you allow your side to promote something that's so stupidly a lie? Why do you support your party for censoring? Why are you afraid of the truth? I'm not afraid of the truth. I've got no problem. Look, right now we're going through it. We're going through. You've got Republicans and conservatives going through a thing of, should we have our loyalty to Trump or should our loyalty be to promoting the issues and winning long term? Eric and I have been blunt. The conservative movement will continue without me, without Eric, without Trump, without anybody who currently is in the Republican Party right now. The conservative movement will continue. It's not about the people.
It's about the ideas
that are articulated at one particular point, even though they can be important to pushing something forward. And all three of those people were very important in pushing a lot of positive things of where the country should be going. Trump number 3, I'm number 2, Eric number 1.
Always.
Okay, I couldn't even handle that one. But we've got on Trump got on Trump many times for lying. I'll never forget the woman that called the show one time. Trump has never lied. Well, that was a lie. I'll never forget what she called. Trump has never lied, ever.
Yeah.
Really?
Everybody lies. And there's the problem is that, if
everybody doesn't lie.
No, everybody lies. Eventually, they lie.
When it comes to the issues?
Everybody
may lie. Everybody tells a white lie.
Generally speaking, everybody lies. Yeah. And so there's the problem. You don't have to jump out and defend somebody else's lie. You don't have to politically jump out and defend anybody else but yourself and your own actions.
When was the last time you lied about something that related to an issue on the radio?
I don't lie on the radio.
Okay.
I only lie to you when the mic is off.
Well, no, that's the only point I'm trying to bring up. Everybody, because we all tell white lies to, for example, you're talking to a kid, you're not going to tell them the full truth because you wish to protect them. That's
Santa
different.
Claus is real. Yeah,
I'm exactly right. Well, many Americans actually believe that lie that Santa Claus does exist in a different way. Hey, there's free stuff out there.
Still a lie. Yeah.
Now that may be whether it's a lie or just they're clueless and ignorant as to how things actually work. Would be a great debate, but that's the point I'm trying to make. That lying on the issues in the media and in politics about the issues that are important to us.
Well, but my point is that people are okay with the lies because as long as their lies aren't going to be called out, they're not going to be called out for any of their lies that they tell. Then they think, okay, well, I don't care if they lie. It is very clear when somebody who is in public office is lying. Eventually, it is very clear when they keep repeating the lie, and more, it is proven that, well, of course he knew about his son's business dealings. But they're okay with it because the lie facilitates something, and they're part of it. So they excuse it away that way. And that's the problem. I've always lived by the standard politically that I don't have to get out and jump in, even if I voted for the person.
Right.
I don't have to jump in. I'm not their defense lawyer. In fact, I'm going to hold their feet to the fire. I'm probably going to be more frustrated with them if I believe they're lying about something or they're doing something that I disagree with, because it's not why I voted for them. So they're going against what they promised to do. They're going against the principles and morals of the people who widely supported them. And those are the things we talk about. On the left, that doesn't apply. Tell me what principles and morals that they hold their elected officials to and expect them to follow through with.
Oh, I do remember a lie you told on the air.
Yeah.
About your time with Aerosmith.
I know. It was only 8 years, not 9. But what are you going to do?
But when you look at coverage and you look at everything from, because you go back to, the Trump campaign in 2015 and whatever.
Right.
And you look at, Russia collusion. I don't know of one conservative outlet that didn't cover that in specific details. There's nothing on the right that compares to the wanting to censor and not cover what's going on in society like the mainstream media and the Democratic Party. Nothing has ever existed to this level with that culture that exists, not conspiracy, but the culture that exists, that it's okay to do that. And you ask yourself why? Because to me, that is such a foreign thing. I believe what I believe because I truthfully believe it's the best way. If you have to lie, then you don't actually believe.
No, you don't believe it.
That what your party is doing is the best way to do things, because otherwise you wouldn't have to lie. Why are we lying about the border?
Well,
why do the Democrats lie about the border?
Why are we lying about genders? Why are we trying to just make something real that isn't real? Party of science. Why?
To get along?
To go along with what the last person whispered in my ear, and I've got to repeat it again. How many genders are there, Mr. Biden? 3. Oh, man.
That was the best.
You are so wrong.
And nobody called him out on his bigotry.
Exactly.
Somebody should have asked him, what's the third one?
Yeah, and the left still voted for him. Wow.
866-90-RED-I.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
Denny's is here to serve America's professional truck drivers, providing a hot, down-home meal on the go. Order ahead at Denny's.com today. Hours and participating restaurants may vary.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
fuel additives.
Most fuel additives either impact performance or provide protection. Hot Shot Secret Everyday Diesel Treatment provides both performance enhancement and fuel system protection. Everyday Diesel Treatment delivers a 6-in-1 premium fuel treatment for every fill-up, every time.
Everyday Diesel Treatment is available at truck stops and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Red Eye Radio and our sponsors are devoted to trucking safety. That's why we are proud to bring you the Red Eye Radio Million Mile Club. We've been saluting drivers who have surpassed the million-mile mark with preventable, accident-free driving. By reaching this milestone, you can be a part of an elite club of drivers who share remarkable safety records and demonstrate superior driving skills. If you or someone you know is a truck driver with 1 million miles or more of driving under your belt without a preventable accident, register online at redeyeradioshow.com. That's redeyeradioshow.com. The Red Eye Radio Million Mile Club would not be possible without the generous support of the fine folks from Petro Stopping Centers, Howe's Lubricator, Motel 6, the St. Christopher Fund, and Cat Scale. We applaud the individual truckers and fleets who drive with care and keep our highways safe. The Red Eye Radio Million Mile Club, devoted to trucking safety. Register online at redeyeradioshow.com.
You know, truck drivers play a critical role in our economy, hauling almost everything we buy. These men and women are the unsung heroes and the backbone of America. When our heroes need support, they turn to the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. The St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund is a 501c3 truck driver charity that steps in to cover necessity household items when an injury or illness takes a driver off the road. Learn more and donate today at truckersfund.org. That's truckersfund.org.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-785-9132. That's 800-785-9132. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-785-9132.
The IRS, the world's most aggressive collection agency. They can seize your property, bank account, and garnish your wages. They cause sleepless nights for millions of Americans. Don't be one of them. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, get protected today. Call 800-312-9970. Coast One Tax Group, protecting your bank, home, and your sleep since 2008. With hundreds of 5-star reviews and an A+ on the Better Business Bureau. Call Coast One Tax Group, 800-312-9970. Stanley from New York owed $93,000. The IRS placed a levy on his bank account. Coast One released the levy and settled with the IRS for $2,000. Mark in Michigan owed $225,000. After Coast One stepped in, Mark walked away paying less than $1,500. Call Coast One now. A 10-minute call can save you up to 93% on your back taxes. Get your fresh start today. That's 800-312-9970.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Reading this headline, we'll talk about it. Ford preparing white-collar workers to fill parts orders if UAW strikes. We've really talked about this, and we had some great calls from UAW workers earlier this week because we talked about the absurdity of where unions are right now. Unions no longer, the UAW is no longer looking to share the profits of companies. What they wish to do is have the taxpayer give them a living wage because of the subsidies and because of the mandating of electric vehicles. Even with the subsidies, car companies can't make a profit on it. And so at these electric car companies, when the transition is made, the workers are making a lot less, a lot less money, and they're furious.
Yeah, right.
But your leaders have been promoting the climate change crap with the Democrats for years. You understand the UAW, and I know if you're a rank and file member, it's not what you want, but you've been paying your dues over the years to leadership that has been promoting what has gotten you to the situation that you're in right now.
How did you not see it coming over the years? How was there not an uprising with union members to say we can't keep doing this? This is going to kill the business model, and this is going to end our jobs ultimately.
Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. So I see from the New York Times that Brett Baer called Trump at least 4 times trying to get him to be part of the debate.
Oh, yeah. Huh. Well.
And it's funny because I've seen stories saying Trump's definitely out of the first, and he implies he's out of all the rest. And then I've seen the headlines, Trump will not be in any of the debates.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, look.
Here's a question. Will this question come up? How come you are willing to endorse whoever the nominee is, including Donald Trump, when he would not say the same about you? Or will they say we're not going to go there? Is Fox just going to say let's do issues? I don't see how you don't go to Trump, though, because he's not there.
Well,
and the candidates are going to want to they're going to either want to compliment him or criticize him.
Think about it. While there's only, what they limited the replay to 3 minutes total?
I don't know if that, I only saw that one story and I've never seen it again.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I didn't see that anywhere else either, but you typically what they want is they want all the replay. I mean, not the entire rebroadcast of it, but they want the sound bites. What's going to get the sound bites?
Trump.
What they say about Trump. So if he's not on stage, the second best thing you can do is to get them to talk about Trump or attack Trump. And those are your sound bites. I mean, we're rewriting all the playbooks here. And I think especially during this political season, you can say that is the case. I don't know what applies and what doesn't. Conventional wisdom doesn't really apply, doesn't necessarily apply.
Well, you think about it, the first debate, here we go. Here is Ramaswamy criticizing Haley on her position of revitalizing Social Security. Snore.
It's not, honestly, unless one of them curses.
Christie.
He might be the one.
Get him to curse.
He might be the one. But otherwise, all of the sound bites of interest are going to be what they say about Trump for two reasons. Because Trump is leading the polls. He's dominating. And so you got to punch up. I mean, that's what you have to do. And they want to do that to some extent. But I do think there has to be consideration. And again, what do I know? That's going to be my new catchphrase, because no conventional wisdom applies. But if you're applying it at least early on because you really don't have any other direction, then you have to go after him. And you go after him on another thing, on a number of things. And the indictments aren't going to be it, because you have to know right now for his base, those work for him. With all the indictments in place right now, his numbers have not changed. So you don't go down that road of saying, well, no, it was right that they indicted him. You say it, and like a couple of, I think DeSantis has said it a couple of times, and you just said, and then you just move on. Listen, we'll see what happens, but this is clearly the two-tier justice system at play, and I don't think it's fair. But you move on, and what I would like to focus on is blah, 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 and you go that direction. But where do you attack Trump? Well, DeSantis has already gone after him on, Fauci, right? Gone after him on, because DeSantis has to defend himself on what Trump throws at him. And some of that has been on COVID. And so, there are things that are going to be in play, but I don't know that much of it makes an interesting soundbite. It's just the only thing you have if Trump is not on that stage, and so then you have, Tucker Carlson talking with Trump. That's going to get some serious views. That's going to get, what was the latest one where it came in and he had, I don't know, like 30 million views. Well, 30 million, an audience of 30 million is the multiple daylights on top of what he had. Maybe not collectively, if you add in when he was at Fox News, his TV show, along with anything that he did on digital, along with anything that they put out as a video, that made it to other media. It could add up to 30 million. I don't have those numbers in front of me. But there's no doubt that having Trump on is going to get you those views. And they know at Fox News, well, they're not going to have the audience they would have had if Trump were on that stage.
I thought one point I wanted to bring up, we all saw over the weekend, I'm sure, the Ramaswamy 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, number one, God is real. Number two, there are two genders. Number three, human flourishing requires fossil fuels. Number four, reverse racism is racism. Number five, an open border is no border. Number six, parents determine the education of their children. 7, the nuclear family is the greatest form of government known to mankind. Number 8, capitalism lifts people up from poverty. Number 9, there are 3 branches of government, not 4. I didn't know specifically what tact is he on there. Is the 4th the press, the media? What was he responding to? I don't.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where he was going there. And 10, the U.S. Constitution is the strongest guarantor of freedoms in history. And I started thinking about this because we saw the other day when he was talking to the one LGBTQ woman who asked him the question about about the whole transgender movement, and he gave such a superb answer. One thing he never did was use the word woke. I think one thing that Republicans need to do, and DeSantis, for example, for so much, woke was the first thing out of his mouth over and over and over and over again, which then Democrats started saying, see, they're using this term woke. What does it actually mean? And you and I had said, stop using those terms. Explain. You can convince your base that you are with them by explaining where you stand on the issues to all independents. Yeah. Am I wrong?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Am I wrong on that?
No.
I don't think I am. You can explain. You can sit there. You don't need to use the woke term. You don't need to use any slang. All you need to do is explain to people, and that's why Ramaswamy was so good in that video cut that was out there, because he just went point by point by point by point by point. I really think that all Republicans need to talk in the language of specifics. And, number 4 here, reverse racism is racism. You and I have said it all the time. Racism is now being an anti-racist. Racism is when it's how we explain things, by not using phrases, but by explaining what the idea actually is.
Okay, by the way, with Ramaswamy, the fourth branch of government, the administrative state, which he says goes further than the drain the swamp that of course, Trump used, and deep state. He says he will do it unilaterally, ending civil service protections by executive order, imposing 8-year term limits on federal positions, shuttering the education department, and replacing the FBI and the IRS and other agencies. That's a huge...
Okay, the bureaucratic... No, that's a great point. That's a great point.
The notion that those elected to government should actually run the government is central to his campaign. So, yeah.
No, but that's something that relates... when you explain it that way, and that relates to the average person as well as all conservatives, which is the laws are made by the people we are elected.
Right.
Government shouldn't be, and even Congress should not be saying, you are an executive branch department and you've got this wide leeway to make these decisions. Because remember, it wasn't Biden that came up with the forgiveness of student loans. It was the education department.
Right. Yeah.
So this is the department, but they're doing things that Congress should do. Well, Congress gave us wide berth. Well, Congress shouldn't give you wide berth, but the court said, no, Congress did not give you that wide berth, and that's why they lost that particular case. And that's a great example of the the bureaucrats who are appointed actually making law. That's a big problem, and I think conservatives see it. I think average Americans can see it if you explain it to them that way.
Right.
Great point.
Well, and you look at that with Department of Education. You look at that with pretty much every department, and then you just say, well, that was Secretary so-and-so. That was their initiative, and you kind of hide it over in that corner. Well, no, it's your agenda.
Yeah, nobody takes responsibility for it.
Exactly.
It exists, but the education department, and I heard by some Biden people, the president didn't come up with the idea to do this. He's in favor of it, but this was from the education department.
Yeah.
Well, who the hell do you talk to in the education department who's going to answer that question for you?
Right, exactly. And then you get into the situation that a number of the courts have had along the way, including, I don't know if there's a specific case lately of the Supreme Court having an issue, but certainly other federal courts having an issue with the procedural items of when a department has a rulemaking, and they just circumvent the rulemaking process altogether. They go through it knowing the court may kick it back, and then they can do a rulemaking announcement, notice of proposed rulemaking officially, and then go through that process and keep the thing in play for a long time. Well, you might get halfway through an entire term of a president before that sees the light of day in a courtroom. Or, as we, talked about a number of things, even with George W. Bush, signing something into law, and knowing that parts of it were unconstitutional. It takes years to get there. Now, that's different than an administrative move, but they know with administrative moves as well, it takes a long time to get to that decision. And you could be a year and a half, 2 years into it, and then hope that the court will say, well, but it's already in play, and if we don't allow this, it's going to affect a lot of people.
And you're referring to McCain-Feingold.
McCain-Feingold,
with Bush,
yep.
Right.
Yep.
When he just said, I know parts of it are unconstitutional, but I'll let the courts work out. And that was one of the days that I might have blown my top again, because no president should ever say that to the American public.
Right.
I know parts of it are constitutional, but I'm going to sign it anyway.
And it took, 5 years to get to the Supreme Court? Well, that's on the administrative move. They're hoping, well, let's get called on an administrative procedural issue, and that will send it back down to us, and we can start over again. That basically kicks the can further down the road. And you try and build the political will of, hey, we're doing this, and the court shut me down. I mean, his Weather Channel interview, what was that, week before last? Well, I'm trying to shut down because it was all about climate change.
Right.
I mean, they're not the Weather Channel anymore. They're the climate change channel. That's what they are. Let's be very clear about it. They give two flips about your forecast. It's about climate change, the entire agenda. So that entire interview was about climate change. No, I'm trying to shut down drilling on the East Coast and the West Coast and in the Gulf, but the courts keep shutting me down. And they can point the finger somewhere else when they want it for a win, but they can also, if someone's saying, well, he did this, oh, no, that was his energy secretary.
866-98 Red Eye.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, when looking at this debate that Trump isn't going to be at, and if Trump isn't going to be at the majority of the debates, as if I'm a political consultant working for one of the other candidates, I'm looking and I say to myself, remember when Trump attacked DeSantis and said things like New York was better during COVID than Florida.
Right.
Well, that's such an absurd statement made by Trump, and then, of course, DeSantis attacked back. Is that the one weak spot that Trump has with Republicans that can be used effectively towards him, even if unfair? Because early on with COVID, nobody had any idea what was going on.
I think what helps to shape that maybe, or give it more power, give it more leverage for the other candidates, is where things go from this point on and in the coming months on COVID, of what was known, how much money went into it, because they'll try and carve out that time of when, you know, Fauci had that kind of control and blah, 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 and that was all during Trump years. How far it goes with the voter, I don't know.
But you're looking as a Republican for anything that would be effective, and you know I can just see it. I would make it simple, and it has to relate to Fauci because you would need to relate it not to what happened, but to the individual that is being blamed for, and quite effectively being blamed by Rand Paul. Nobody is defending Fauci now.
Right.
Fauci's not even defending Fauci now.
No.
And since Trump opened the door with his attack by making the absurd statement that New York handled COVID better than Florida. You lead with that, and then you say he came out with that absurd statement because, he's the guy that Fauci went and did everything that Fauci did. And you don't even have to say much more than Fauci. You don't have to get into specifics.
No,
you just say
exactly what I was thinking.
I think Trump. I think Fauci.
Yeah,
I think COVID. I think the masks. I think of the shutdowns. I think of Trump. I think of Fauci. Would that? And I'm not saying it will work. I'm saying what else, when it comes to Republicans on an issue that is in the minds of Americans now that COVID is, blipping up a little bit, and you hear the Democrats talking about, well, it's time for mask mandates again. And it's like, oh, wow. Try to sell that to the American people now.
If there's anything during his presidency that is the Achilles heel, it is that. It's COVID and the way it was handled. And if you want to bring vaccines into it, look, they were rushed and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Trump says he won't talk about vaccines anymore. Why not?
Yeah, right.
You're a threat to democracy if you don't download our app, Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Expect to hear that a lot over the next year about Republicans, a threat to democracy. We played earlier the Minnesota governor saying the same thing. Republicans are a threat to democracy.
Yeah.
It's like, don't know if they've workshopped that or with the pollsters or whatever. But just going back, just briefly looking at this debate coming up with Trump not there. I mean, what do you do? The two things that are criticisms of Trump that I believe are open to use. One would be the whole chaos thing. Now, DeSantis has talked about that. Whether you think about it or not, there's so much chaos he can't get elected. And if he doesn't get elected, Biden's in power. So they can all talk about that for a while, but that isn't issue-based. When you talk about issues, on the vast majority of the issues, as we've stated before, Trump is basically a moderate, except the fact on things like where moderates agreed as recently as 7-8 years ago, even in the Democratic Party when moderates existed, that we need to secure the border. So the wall and things like that. Nobody from the Republican Party in this debate is going to say, well, Trump was wrong on what he tried to do with securing the border.
Right.
When DeSantis says, well, he didn't build the border and he promised he'd do that, or he didn't build the border. He didn't build the wall.
Yeah.
Well, because people knew we knew he couldn't build the wall alone. We knew it. And so we knew that wasn't going to happen because he didn't even have the support of everybody in Congress. But that's understood, I think, especially by most Republicans who are paying attention in a debate. The only thing I look at would be, again, the whole chaos argument that he can't win and he can't get independence, which is more of a political analysis than, a politician going after another politician. But on an issue, the only issue where I see there's an opening, and I do believe it's because Trump opened up that door when he went after DeSantis, and then he went after DeSantis a second time and said New York State handled COVID better than Florida. You just jumped a big shark there. And then DeSantis went back at him, listen to this guy and what he's saying. Is that the one thing? Because what's going to stick out of this? It doesn't matter if Nikki Haley goes after Tim Scott for, I don't know, bill number 2223 on whether you think climate change is involved in worse injuries in football. By the way, I expect that to come up probably sooner or later.
Yeah, why not?
It's a climate change and the artificial turf and that they needed because the grass wouldn't grow. They can come up with something. But I mean, and so what sticks? The only thing you really have that you could pound on him to make, because you're not changing anybody's mind in this first debate. Your goal is to just make people think. And you start on that narrative, Trump, Fauci. Remember the lockdowns. He loved to blame the Democrats, but look what his own Fauci was doing and what his Fauci was recommending over and over again, and that was the Trump administration. It's not extremely strong. For somebody like me, but I'm not thinking about me and what would affect my decision. I'm just saying the public in general and the things that they would immediately react to, which would be COVID, the lockdowns. Republicans relate to the vaccines, because Trump promoted the daylights out of the fact that, vaccines, I got them quick. And now all the controversies about getting the vaccines out, the recommendations of who should get them, which, again, that was led by, the Trump's administration.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Trump administration that was involved in all of it. Whether Trump was directly involved or not doesn't matter. You can say, well, he wasn't making that decision. Doesn't matter. It's his administration, and you go after what his administration did.
Well, and you also, so you have to measure what's going to play out with Fauci. If the Fauci thing on COVID is coming back, and that discussion appears to be coming back, because you mentioned Rand Paul earlier, and that was the first thing in my mind when I was talking about it, is Rand Paul and how successful he's been. So you bring that back to the surface, then it's going to be in the top of minds. And that's going to be a problem. The vaccine thing, if there's more talk about, well, this happened with the vaccine, or the vaccine is leading to this, and, there's already talk, forget about the mainstream media, on social media. And that's going to be a problem. Unless you look at it from the eyes of, well, we're likely to never hit a pandemic again. That's not going to happen again, and it's a wash.
That maybe for independents, is it for loyal Republicans?
Well, that's the thing, is that if they're loyal...
Who vote in a primary?
If they're loyal now, if they're part of that 55%, I don't know what changes it. Because they do their homework. They're not the ones who are going to be, like we mentioned earlier, 2 weeks before the election, I'm still undecided. Nope. They're decided. In fact, they're the most decided. So I don't think it changes there. I actually think, it has an impact for for independents in the general election. It may have an impact. I guess the question is, again, what the conversation is about COVID, what the GOP does on the investigation between now and then, and how much it's in the tops of minds of anybody. How much conversation there is about it.
All right, switching to the other political party, I saw this. Jason Chaffetz wrote it, opinion piece, former representative who now works for Fox. 5 indications Joe Biden will not run in 2024. We don't see Biden on the campaign trail defending his presidency or touting his accomplishments, and we haven't seen him really at all do that.
No.
And he said, reason number one, here's some of the indicators that Biden may not be planning to run. Skeleton crew. Though Biden has begun hiring fundraisers for the 2024 campaign, his operation is a tiny skeleton crew of staffers working exclusively out of his home state of Delaware. That puts him closer to his homes, but far from the center of gravity of swing states or the nation's capital. That's number one. Number two, strategic travel. After spending some of the summer overseas, Biden is in vacation mode for the month of August. Not only did Biden skip the traditionally all-important Iowa State Fair, he traveled to Utah, My home state always welcomes the President of the United States, but we're hardly a battleground state. A serious candidate would have campaigned in Nevada, Colorado, and Montana. He did go on to visit northern Arizona, where he proclaimed the Grand Canyon to be one of the 9 wonders of the world. He's always been a gaffe machine, but with the election ramping up, his new wilderness grab does nothing to expand his base in critical Arizona. In fact, it polarizes voters. Number 3, where is Kamala? Though she has visited Florida and picked fights with GOP presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis, Harris has been largely invisible through the first 3 years of the Biden presidency. Unless she's making a gaffe, she seldom makes the news. There is talk of deploying her to help with very specific demographic groups during the campaign. But as of now, we haven't seen much of her on the trail. Her portfolio is minimal. She is nowhere for solving the immigration and human trafficking crisis. She is also reportedly tackling AI. We are not sure yet she can spell AI or lead the critical thinking necessary to put guardrails for this emerging technology. I don't know what his point was there, except the fact she's not out campaigning for him. I think that's what that was. Fiddling as Maui burns.
Yeah.
Biden's unbelievable response to the Maui fires from his vacation on the beach of no comment ricocheted around the nation. Did he really not have anything to say to those desperate people fighting for their lives as he sunned himself on the beach? This was an opportunity for a president to flex his political muscle. Though the administration insists he has taken action, reports on the ground in Maui described aid being blocked, properties being looted, and FEMA being AWOL. And by the way, the complaints are coming from local stations and the national stations actually covering it and talking to people that are actually in need of things.
And that's why I think he's a liability now that he's going late. He's going far too late. And the questions are going to be everywhere. Where have you been?
And then the comment, the second one on Thursday, when he was asked, well, you're going to be traveling there. Anything to talk about your travels to Maui? No. Whoa, man. And then the fifth one he has here, hibernating over Hunter, with real substantive evidence surfacing that the president's son took payments from foreign entities in exchange for access to his father. The campaign seems to be locking down. The New York Times reported that campaign manager Julie Chavez canceled a planned interview on the Biden-friendly MSNBC to avoid facing a litany of questions about Hunter Biden. Upon his return from Delaware, Biden's team cordoned off reporters far enough that Biden could not hear their shouted questions as he turned their back on him. That's another thing that they're trying to do now. Make it so he can't hear the questions.
Yeah, right.
We need to move him back another 50 feet so they can scream the questions, but he can't hear them.
He can't hear them.
They're afraid if he hears a question,
he'll engage.
He'll turn around.
Yep.
With few exceptions, we don't see him on the campaign trail defending his presidency or touting his accomplishments in key battleground states. We don't see his vice president making the case for him. He isn't sharing his vision for the future. He is hiding from the press, hiding from the scandals, hiding from his own incompetence as commander-in-chief. Now, it's Jason Chaffetz who wrote it, so you understand his bias coming in. He says, by the end of the calendar year, I, for one, anticipate he won't be a candidate in 2024.
Interesting. It's, by the way, that's exactly how you handle Maui. Listen, out of respect for the families who have lost loved ones, out of respect for the people of Hawaii, we're going to keep the media out of this. We're going to let the president talk one-on-one with some of the locals and pay his respects. And you keep the media at bay.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, if I'm advising this president, I tell them to handle it exactly that way. Yeah. Because otherwise the media is going to be shouting at him, where have you been? And he's going to be defiant. Oh, man. You talk about a liability. He's a liability every time he goes outside. Politically, you just don't want him in front of any cameras or microphones. You don't. You're cringing the entire time. You're just oh my gosh, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it.
Yeah, I saw the blank look on his staff behind him last Thursday. Even Karine Jean-Pierre was there. When she was standing there, and he just goes, no, and you see the look in her face. Was
and she looked down. I rewatched that video probably a dozen times for that alone. He says no, and then she looks down like, oh, crap, my job's going to suck for the next 2 weeks at least for that one 2-letter word that he just issued. I mean, she looked down and looked defeated.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So I'm just sitting here laughing, thinking about, we've got a debate. We have a debate coming up where the lead candidate won't be there.
Yeah,
and the lead candidate is not really campaigning and using his campaign money to campaign. He's using it for legal fees.
Yeah,
and on the other side, that candidate is also not really campaigning to be president of the United States. I mean, it's like, what? It's like,
number one question: do either of you really want the job? And I don't really care who goes first. Go ahead. Just talk over each other. We really don't care.
You think about it. That's why everything's thrown out the window for this election.
Yeah. No,
really
it is.
Everything's
all of conventional wisdom and historic number. Nothing necessarily applies. I mean, we may get, this in our rear view. Well, eventually we will. God willing.
Hopefully we will.
Exactly.
Please, God, let it happen. Let me live.
Let me live through the election at least. And then, once we do that, we can say, okay, well, this was kind of normal, or that was kind of, or typical maybe of an election season. But if you're looking at it right now, I don't know what applies.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.